Hi students, it's Mrs. Gifford here, and we are going to switch gears from combining like terms and moving into solving equations. If you haven't done so yet, please go grab your math notebook and something to write with, so you have that to follow along with the lesson and take some notes as we go. So again, today's learning target is I can solve one-step equations by using inverse operations. So let's get right into our examples. So draw that line and split your notebook paper into 1/3, 2/3, and write down the directions for solve for the indicated variable. Again, anytime you need it, feel free to pause as you need to get caught up with what is being written, and then play when you are ready. So here is our first example, example 1a. It's x plus -4 equals -10. And one of the things that you might notice is that there's this white line through the equal sign. So what we want to do when solving equations is put that line straight through the equal sign to help us remember that whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we need to do it to the other. So as I'm looking at this problem, it is x plus -4 equals -10. And I think to myself, what's the opposite or the inverse of addition? And it's subtraction. So I need to subtract -4 from both sides. So I'm going to show that work here. I'm subtracting -4. And again, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. It's like a scale in science, or if you're at the playground and you're on one of those teeter-totters, whatever you do to one side to the other to get them, you need it to the other to keep it balanced. So then again, these 4's cancel each other out. And then on the left-hand side, we are left with x. And then when we do -10 minus -4, that's going to end up as a -6. Again, if you were doing that in your head and you were thinking -14, you actually added them instead of subtracted. So let's look at our second example, very similar. As that first one, this example is 18 equals y minus 7. And again, as I look at this, it doesn't change just because the variable is over here on the right-hand side. We are still going to solve this the same way. Except I know as I'm looking at this, I see subtraction, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. So then I want to get rid of that -7 and get y by itself. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides of this equation. And then on the left-hand side, it gives me 25. And then on the right, it gives me a positive y. Now again, notice I brought that line straight through the equal sign to help me keep track of what's going on the top and or on the left and the right. And then I've also been drawing this horizontal line, kind of like when you learned how to add and subtract when you were little, just to help keep things kind of sectioned off. So let's take a look at our second example. Same directions, solve for the indicated variable, but 2 more examples. So as I look at this equation, -15 equals 1/3 p. Now we know that when a number, 1/3, is next to a variable, p, it's understood that it means to multiply. So the inverse, or the opposite of multiplication, is division. So again, to get p to be alone and by itself, I'm going to divide both sides of my equation by that 1/3. That's going to cancel out here on the right-hand side. And then on my calculator, I'm going to type in -15. Actually, I'll put it down here on the screen. I'm going to type in -15. What am I doing? Oh, divided by parentheses 1 divided by 3. And so when you enter this on your calculator, -15 divided by, and then make sure you put the 1/3 in parentheses, you should end up getting -45. So again, we've got -45 on this left-hand side. The 1/3, this 1/3 canceled out the 1/3 next to p, so this would be our solution. Our last example for this lesson is -z/7 is equal to -4. And we know anytime we've got this fraction bar, it means division. And what's the opposite or inverse of division? Right, it's multiplication. So I need to multiply both sides of this equation by that -7, because in doing so, this multiplication of -7 is going to cancel this -7 out. And then again, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So my final answer is z equals, z equals +28. So again, just the 4 quick examples for today's lesson, and here is our closure. So today's lesson talked about using inverse operations. In your own words, I want you to describe the word inverse or the phrase inverse operations, and how do we use it in solving equations. And then again, when you've done that, like we've showed you in all of the other slides, here are the steps for getting to your assignment in Schoology. So you're going to go to your math class, look for lesson 6, click on the lesson 6 solving equations worksheet, and you can either print it off, write down those problems on your notebook paper, solve them, and then upload to your digital unit record.